We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. And tonight, we're exposing what the corporate media won't connect in one straight line. Furious world leaders are blocking Donald Trump right before the State of the Union, and the walls are closing in on a presidency built on chaos, bluster, and lies. Let's start with the reality that no amount of spin can hide. Across Europe, across Asia, across North America, leaders are done indulging Donald Trump's reckless threats, especially his obsession with escalating conflict with Iran. Behind closed doors, diplomats are fuming. Publicly, they're refusing cooperation. No staging areas, no shared intelligence expansion, no multilateral backing, no blank checks. Trump wants to posture as a wartime president. The world is refusing to hand him the stage. Even inside his own government, the resistance is unmistakable. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Daniel Razin Kane, has reportedly warned Trump in blunt terms, without allied support beyond Israel, there is no such thing as a clean, limited strike to topple the Iranian regime. Military planners have explained that Iran is not some isolated target you can hit once and walk away from. It has regional proxies, asymmetric capabilities, missile stockpiles, naval assets, in the Strait of Hormuz cyber warfare units. A limited strike could spiral. Within hours, oil markets would convulse. U.S. bases across the Middle East would light up as targets, and American service members would pay the price. Trump doesn't like hearing that. He prefers generals who nod, not generals who calculate consequences. Reports indicate he's grown increasingly frustrated with what aides describe as the limits of U.S. military leverage against Iran. But war isn't a branding exercise. Military planners have warned him that any strike would almost certainly not be singular or decisive. Instead, it could open the door to a broader confrontation, one that risks dragging the United States into yet another prolonged Middle East conflict. And here's the detail that should chill every American. The Pentagon has raised concerns about shortfalls in critical munitions and interceptor systems, the kind of stockpiles that take years and billions to replenish. If escalation pops off, those reserves could be dangerously depleted. So while Trump beats his chest on social media, professionals inside the Pentagon are quietly trying to prevent catastrophe. At the same time, Trump is isolating the United States economically. He has imposed another sweeping tariff regime, 15% tariffs on the rest of the world, framing it as America first. But what it really does is tax American consumers, raise prices, and inflame tensions with allies who once stood shoulder to shoulder with the US, Canada, Europe, Australia, Japan. They're not clapping, they're recalculating. And nowhere is that recalculation more visible than in Canada. Prime Minister Mark Carney has been methodically building trade bridges that bypass Washington's volatility. While Trump threatens, Carney travels. India, Australia, Japan, Europe. He's forging trans-Pacific and transatlantic partnerships, presenting Canada as the stable, reliable alternative to an America governed by tariff tantrums. In India, he meets with Prime Minister Narendra Modi to expand trade and investment ties. In Australia, he addresses Parliament, the first Canadian Prime Minister to do so in nearly 2 decades, while meeting Prime Minister Anthony Albanese to deepen defense and energy cooperation. In Tokyo, he confers with Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, reinforcing strategic alignment in the Indo-Pacific. This isn't symbolic tourism. It's strategic diversification. Carney has openly stated that in a more uncertain world, Canada must focus on what it can control, diversifying trade, attracting new investment, creating opportunities in technology, clean energy, and defense manufacturing. Translation: reduce dependence on the United States while Trump is in charge. And here's what makes this even more humiliating for Trump. Canada, politically diverse as it is largely united in rejecting his economic aggression. From the New Democratic Party to the Liberal Party to many conservatives at the provincial level, there's an understanding that Trump's tariffs harm both sides of the border. Ontario Premier Doug Ford, no left-wing radical, has bluntly said that tariffs on Canada are a tax on the United States itself. He's warned that inflation south of the border is being fueled by these policies. He's pointed out that millions of American jobs are tied directly to trade with Ontario alone. When you disrupt that, you're not punishing Canada. You're squeezing American workers. Ford even noted that many Canadians are openly watching U.S. midterm elections, recognizing that dozens of Senate seats are in play, and that economic pain could shift the balance of power. Think about that. A neighboring ally once reflexively aligned is now openly discussing how U.S. electoral outcomes might determine whether economic stability returns. That's not strength. That's erosion of influence. And then there's Greenland, the episode that perfectly captures the absurdity of this administration. When a U.S. nuclear submarine surfaced near Greenland due to a medical emergency, Greenlandic authorities helped save the life of an American service member. At the same time, Denmark's king was visiting the territory. Instead of expressing gratitude and moving on, Trump and Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry began posting claims about sending U.S. hospital ships to Greenland to save its people. There was just one problem. The Pentagon had received no orders to deploy any medical vessels. None. The Navy's hospital ships, USNS Comfort and USNS Mercy, were both undergoing maintenance in Alabama and California. Officials quietly confirmed that no deployment was happening. When reporters asked for clarification, Navy and Pentagon spokespeople referred them to the White House. The White House pointed to Trump's Truth Social posts, policy by post, governance by fantasy. This is the same pattern we've seen over and over again. Trump posts sweeping claims. Agencies scramble to interpret them. Allies scratch their heads. Markets react. And then days later, the narrative shifts without accountability. Now let's return to Iran, because the contradictions are staggering. Trump recently claimed that reports of General Kane opposing war were 100% incorrect. He insisted that any military action would be easily won and referenced Midnight Hammer, claiming Iranian nuclear facilities were blown to smithereens by B-2 bombers. But pause for a second. Trump previously claimed Iran's nuclear capabilities had already been obliterated. If that's true, what exactly is the urgency now? What are negotiations even about? You can't simultaneously claim total destruction and imminent threat without exposing the lie. And yet he continues. He now says he cares about the Iranian people. But when protests erupted in Iran, he publicly encouraged demonstrators, telling them America had their backs. The regime responded with brutal crackdowns. Tens of thousands were reportedly killed in the unrest. Later, Trump bragged about influencing the regime to halt executions of hundreds more. As if that offsets the chaos, his rhetoric inflamed. As if geopolitical brinkmanship has no human cost. The blood of protesters doesn't evaporate because you tweet sympathy after the fact. Meanwhile, America's diplomatic standing continues to deteriorate. In France, U.S. Ambassador Charles Kushner, yes, the same Charles Kushner who pleaded guilty to tax evasion and witness tampering before being pardoned by Trump, has been effectively frozen out after interfering in French domestic politics. After blaming leftist extremists for a politically sensitive murder case, he was summoned by the French Foreign Ministry. He refused to appear. In diplomacy, refusing a summons from your host nation is an insult. France responded by barring officials from meeting with him. He's been iced out. Think about that. The representative of the United States, once a role of immense prestige, is now diplomatically sidelined because he wouldn't show basic respect to the country he's assigned to. In the United Kingdom, investigations tied to Jeffrey Epstein continue to ripple outward. Figures connected to that scandal face scrutiny. There is movement toward accountability abroad. In the United States, silence and deflection. All of this is unfolding as Trump prepares to deliver a State of the Union address. A speech meant to project stability, leadership, vision. But behind the applause lines and teleprompter bravado is a reality of growing isolation. Allies are hedging. Military leaders are warning. Economic partners are diversifying. Diplomats are freezing out controversial appointees. Markets are jittery, and the American public is left to decipher which social media post represents actual policy. World leaders blocking Trump before the State of the Union isn't a headline. It's a pattern. It's Canada building new trade corridors. It's Europe strengthening independent defense frameworks. It's Asian partners deepening regional ties that don't rely solely on Washington. It's military planners insisting on realism over ego. It's the quiet refusal to enable another reckless adventure. And here's the deeper issue. Leadership isn't about volume, it's about credibility. When you lie repeatedly about military success, about diplomatic negotiations, about economic impacts, you burn through credibility like fuel. Eventually, even allies stop taking your calls at face value. They wait, they verify, they hedge. That's where we are. Trump frames pushback as disloyalty. He calls critical media fake. He insists generals are aligned. He claims easy victories, but reality keeps intruding. Tariffs raise prices. Threats destabilize regions. Diplomatic insults trigger consequences. You can't bully the entire planet and expect applause. And as midterm elections approach, political pressure intensifies. Dozens of Senate seats are contested. House races are tight. Economic anxiety grows. Inflation narratives persist. If allies continue to distance themselves and global markets react negatively to escalation, domestic consequences will follow. This is the moment before the speech, before the applause, before the scripted optimism. And the world is signaling that it will not be dragged into another war, another trade spiral, another ego-driven crisis. We are anonymous. We don't operate from podiums. We observe patterns. We connect dots. We amplify what power hopes you won't examine too closely.